Hello everyone, my name's Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. So a lot of times on this channel, we discuss about best DevOps practices, things that you should do as a DevOps engineer, best DevOps engineering blogs. But we never talk about things that you should not do as a DevOps engineer. In fact, this is not my idea. I got this from you. One of our subscribers commented, Abhishek, I joined as a DevOps engineer. I'm completely new to this field. Tell me what are the things that I should not do in my organization. I thought it's a cool idea. So that's why I'm making this video today. I'll try to make this video as short as possible, but at the same time, I'll keep it very informative. Just make sure you watch the video till the end. Out of the 7 things that I'm going to talk about now, the first and the most terrible thing that you can do as a DevOps engineer, according to me, is going with no branching strategy or just accepting any branching strategy that is there within your organization. Let me tell you why as well. A bad branching strategy can impact your organization in multiple ways. First, it can impact your organization with respect to costing. I've seen a lot of times developers get to commit their branches to the GitHub repos. As developers commit their branches to the GitHub repos, there are hundreds of branches. These branches are cloned from the main branch. So they have CI/CD pipelines. And from the CI/CD pipelines, developers deploy their application onto the dev Kubernetes cluster. So end of the day, there are multiple pods. Each pod comes with a compute. So your development Kubernetes cluster is costing a lot for your organization. On top of that, when there are multiple branches, you don't have control over the Git repository. You don't have control over review process. You don't have control over RBAC of the repository, approval process. At times, you don't even realize how did a commit reach the main branch? How did a security vulnerability hit your main branch? So these are the reasons why you should not have a bad branching strategy. So if you join as a DevOps engineer, first thing that you have to do, go through different branching strategies on the internet, GitLab, GitHub, trunk based, Gitflow, understand what suits your organization and recommend it for your organization. Developers and management will always be reluctant to branching strategy because they don't like committing to multiple branches and they don't like a huge process to follow to get their commit to the main branch. So this will be your responsibility. Now, the second thing, the second terrible mistake that you can do is not going with a rollback strategy. Again, this is super important. Whenever you are planning for deployment, let's say as a DevOps engineer, you have planned a deployment. Along with the deployment, if you are not planning for rollback strategy, then it's your terrible mistake because the chances of deployment succeeding in the production environment are always 60 to 70%. You might say, but Abhishek, I've tested it on lower environment, I've tested it on the staging environment, but still you haven't tested it with the real customers. So you should always have a rollback strategy. And a good rollback strategy always comes with good deployment strategy as well. So understand the different deployment strategies. It can be canary model of deployment. It can be blue-green model of deployment and come with a good rollback strategy. So if you're doing deployment and if you're not coming with a rollback strategy, then that's a terrible mistake. Number three, nowadays people are well aware of this, but still a terrible mistake that you can do as a DevOps engineer is hard coded secrets. Especially as a DevOps engineer, you have chances of leaking your organizational secrets more than the developers because you work with Terraform, you work with Ansible, you work with Kubernetes, you work with AWS, cloud platforms, and these are the places where you have the sensitive information. Now, when I say hard coded secrets, I don't only mean the typical secrets that you see, it can also be certificates. You have to timely rotate the certificates. So a terrible mistake that you can do is hard coding of sensitive information. Not secrets, but sensitive information. Then the fourth mistake, going with no monitoring or not implementing monitoring, or better word to use is observability. Let me be very clear here. If you have SRE team within your organization, monitoring and observability becomes the responsibility of the SRE team. You don't have to poke your nose in it. But if you are a DevOps team who is also responsible, or let's say you don't have SRE team within your organization, this becomes your responsibility. Now you cannot say there is no SRE team, but observability does not fall in my scope. No, that would be a terrible mistake, because if you have monitoring, you can identify issues early. You can configure limits. You can configure thresholds. You can configure alerting. And using all of this, you can reduce the chance of production issues significantly. So if there is no SRE team, make sure you monitor and set up observability. Then the fifth and another terrible mistake is with respect to Terraform. Now I've seen this very often from DevOps engineers. Terraform, setting up like infrastructure of code or creating infrastructure using Terraform looks easy, but the main challenge is managing Terraform. And what a lot of DevOps engineers do, they get negligent with Terraform state files or Terraform modules, Terraform workspaces. So if you're working as a DevOps engineer, if you're working on Terraform, make sure, if you're not doing this, this is a terrible mistake. Make sure your state file is secure. Your state file has backups. You put your state file in a place where it cannot be lost. Make sure you implement modular structure for your Terraform. Make sure you implement workspaces for your Terraform. On top of that, lot of times Terraform workflows are done manually. Again, that's a mistake. Make sure your Terraform workflow is integrated with CI/CD. So you should not run Terraform workflows manually. You should run it using your GitHub Actions or using your GitLab pipelines or Jenkins pipelines. Manually running Terraform is just for your hobby project. You might be doing hobby projects and you might get into DevOps role and you continue the same thing. No. Within your organization, just like your source code, the Terraform code should be treated like the source code. Whatever you do for the source code, you put your source code in a Git repository, put your Terraform manifest in a Git. You release new version of your source code using CI/CD pipelines, do the same thing for Terraform as well. You deploy your source code using CI/CD pipelines, same thing has to be with your Terraform as well. Sixth one is no disaster recovery. Now, a lot of people ignore the disaster recovery, and a lot of people also confuse disaster recovery with rollback strategy. No, they are different. If you are assuming disaster recovery and rollback strategy is same, and if you are not setting up disaster recovery, that's a terrible mistake. What is the difference? A rollback strategy comes into picture during your deployment, but disaster can happen anytime, especially with the advancement of AI. You are seeing these days, there are a lot of security attacks. People might hack your system, people might hack your production environment. In those cases, you should have a disaster recovery. What comes under disaster recovery? Basically your backups. Backup everything that is possible. Every possible thing. It can be your server configuration, it can be your Kubernetes manifest. Design failovers. In case of a failover, what is that you would follow? And make sure your recovery strategy is well tested. So these are the things that you have to follow as part of disaster recovery. Now, seventh and the final one, this might be too obvious for a lot of people, but still there are people who are new to DevOps, who are learning DevOps from this channel. So never deploy your application directly to production. So no direct production deployment. This is what you do when you're working on your hobby project, when you're working on a proof of concept, you directly put that on a production environment and you show that proof of concept, or you put that hobby project out. In real world, what you have to do, you have to go with multiple environments. And this is also strongly aligned with the branching strategy. So you have to make sure you have lower level of environment, you have staging environment, and finally the production environment. This should be your path to production. And at each environment, application should only be deployed through CI/CD pipeline, even your lower environment and the production environment. So these are 7 mistakes that you should not do as a DevOps engineer. Let me quickly walk you through it one more time as a quick revision. First one, not having web branching strategy is a terrible mistake. Not having a rollback strategy is a terrible mistake. Hard coding secrets, including your certificates, API tokens, your Terraform, Ansible, Kubernetes, cloud, is a terrible mistake. Not setting up observability is a terrible mistake. While working with Terraform, not securing your state file, not having modular workflow, not having workspaces in Terraform, and running your Terraform manually is a terrible mistake. Not setting up disaster recovery is a terrible mistake. Finally, deploying your application directly to production is also a terrible mistake. So these are the 7 things that you should not do. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section. If you found it insightful, also leave a comment. See you all in the next video. Take care.